What do you like about your dad?
He's funny, he's kind, and he chases me around a lot. And I also like how he's kind-hearted and he loves others quickly and he takes care of me, and I just love his big heart.
Okay. What does your dad do for work?
He just retired from the police department and he owns a restaurant called Blue Mint, and he's trying to get at least 50 locations in about 5 years.
Oh. What do you wish your dad did more of?
I wish he did more of like taking me out for daddy's daughter dates.
Hey, this is Ethan. This is Mike's son. My favorite thing about my dad, I would say, is like his drive and ambition to get things done. Whenever he puts something to his mind, he's always able to work forward to it and, make sure that he gets the outcome that he wants. My dad doesn't technically work right now. He is retired from APD and from the Air Force, but he's doing Blue Mint full time now. So he's always having meetings and, making sure that everything is running well at the restaurant. And we have 2 new restaurants coming pretty soon. So he's been working on that a lot recently. And one thing I wish my dad did more was, I think just like more, one-on-one times with, us. He's always pretty busy with, all the work that he does at Blue Mint, which I can completely understand. But, every now and again, it'd be nice to go out, to the movies or bowling or, do something else like that.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the BizDad podcast. Today, I'm excited to chat with Mike Wilson, another fellow military veteran, law enforcement officer, entrepreneur, real estate guy, opening his business. I'm super excited to dig into because he just got approved for a 51 locations in a 5-year time frame for his restaurant. I can't wait to talk about that a little bit. But first, Mike, if you can, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us about your family and tell us about your business.
Good morning. My name is Mike Wilson. My family consists of a beautiful wife, Pamela. I have a 19-year-old son named Ethan, a 17-year-old son named Noah, and a 7-year-old daughter named Kennedy. It's quite a handful. Very outgoing. So that's my family life. We all live in Midlothian, Texas, which is a little bit south of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And we're super happy and super excited that I recently retired from law enforcement. Yeah. And I have a lot of spare time to do family stuff. I'm trying to help out with some things I couldn't do with a 44-hour-a-week job. Mm-hmm. But now I'm willing to dedicate everything to future family empire growth and helping the family in any way I can.
I love it. Yeah, that's awesome. So I want to dig into the family a little bit more, but tell me about your businesses as well.
So I currently own Blue Mint Thai and Asian Cuisine in Mansfield, Texas. We're in the process of opening up 2 additional local locations, one in Midlothian, my hometown, and one in Arlington, Texas, where I was a police officer for 17 years. And we did sign a national franchise agreement. And just to correct you a little bit, it's not a contract for 51 locations, but our concept is projected to hit 51 locations
there we go.
in 5 years. So it might land at 40, it might land at 20, it might land at 75, but just based on our competitors and the concept we're going with, this company has worked with Jimmy John's, Jersey Mike's, Costco, Ford dealerships. So they're well versed in the franchise game.
That's awesome. Now, I don't know much about the franchise game, so I'd love to dig into that a little bit, just kind of learn a little bit.
We'll get into that. That's gonna be cool. Similar to you, I am a real estate investor, ex-military. I have done I didn't apply for a job with ADPI, but I was on the verge of getting into that world. Yeah, because I love what you guys stand for and how you help out military members to get into passive wealth. I've recently subscribed to an oil drilling investment in North Texas. And one of my Go Bros and my Go Pod, we are teaming up. He's the GP, but we're doing a 60 unit complex in South Dakota as well.
Nice. And that's going to be a development?
It's an existing apartment complex. And
nice.
yeah, so it's a value add.
Very nice. I love it. Yeah, apartment buildings, value add. You're talking my world for sure on that one. So I want to rewind the clock a little bit to kind of learn about what it was like for you growing up. Tell me a little bit about like your dad, your mom, maybe even your dad's dad, and I'll throw this over to kind of set the stage like I usually do. Is when we start to really understand who our parents are, it helps us kind of establish why we're doing some of the things we're doing. So I always love to kind of dig into, who your dad was, because, and what did you learn from him as far as being a dad? What did you learn to not do? What did you learn to do? That type of stuff. So if you can, just tell me a little bit about what it was like for you growing up.
Sure. So as most successful people go, there is a path of adversity that we have to go through. So my dad was out of the picture almost my entire life. He is a felon. He is involved in the drug business. He died 10 years ago, and I didn't know about this until a couple of years ago. But he was in the house until I was 3 or 4, taught me a lot of things not to do. And then he kind of popped in on regular weekends, never paid child support. Didn't talk to him since my 13th birthday, where he said he was going to come visit me for my birthday. Never heard or saw from him again. Wow. So I knew that that's not the dad I wanted to be to my children. Yeah. So I tried to take a different path. My mom, on the other hand, is the person that has taught me everything I know about perseverance, hard work. Both of my mom's parents are from Puerto Rico, and she's 100% Puerto Rican. Born in New York, moved to South Florida. So I was born and raised in the Fort Lauderdale, Hollywood area of South Florida. It wasn't, I wouldn't say, let me take that back. We struggled financially. Mm-hmm. So I remember being told that there would be some nights where I've had ketchup sandwiches. Mm-hmm. And I specifically remember as a child, her dragging me out of bed at 2 a.m. and putting me in the back of her car and covering me with newspapers because she had to deliver newspapers from 4 to 6 a.m. before I went to school. So she would work her job. She'd have a weekend job. And then 3 or 4 nights a week, we'd be delivering newspapers with me in the back seat trying to get a restful night's sleep. So one story that I recall about her determination was I dropped a bowling ball on her big toe and broke it. Mm. And she had to make money to keep us on the path to get out of where we were living. So I saw her crawl up flights of stairs to deliver newspapers with a broken toe at 4 a.m. So that was part of my indoctrination into we get stuff done. Yeah. So no matter what it needs, whatever your goal is, we keep moving forward and we keep getting it done. That, in addition to the way the military works, kind of shaped me into who I am today. So my mom taught me everything. I remember her sitting down with bills saying, you better keep your credit score up. I don't care if you don't have lights or gas for a few weeks, but you better keep that credit score up. So I've always been a person, afraid of using credit until I get into the rooms with the right people, teaching you how to leverage other people's money and that kind of thing. Yeah. So my mom, at the earliest possible chance, moved us into a small townhouse in a more affluent area in Cooper City, Florida. And I think that changed the trajectory of what my life would have been to where it is now.
Wow. That is, when we go through crazy things in our background, it's one of those that a lot of people can either, and I say this over and over again, you either run so far away from that and you're like, I learned a ton of resilience, I learned a ton about this, or you just go right down that same exact path and say, well, I guess this is just what we do. This is what the Wilsons have to do, and it just doesn't, I desire strongly for my kids to do better than me in every single way. And it sounds like that was what your mom's desire was as well, is to help you, learn from her on how to be smart with your money, how to be, wise and determined and driven and all of the stuff. So what did she grow up? Does she, how many brothers and sisters does she have?
She has one sister and one brother.
Okay.
One was a 20-year Navy vet. During Vietnam, he was on the boats almost his entire career. And then her younger sister lives in the same area in Florida, and she is a teacher's aide.
Okay. All right. So are you close with them as well?
So my uncle, because he lives in North Florida, we haven't really kept it in touch. I mean, I see him on occasion, but I call him my mom and my aunt at least once a week. Like, we are a very tight knit, even though the extended Puerto Rican family is very large. We don't keep in close contact with them, but our immediate family, we do vacation together. We do as much as we can. Them living in Florida and me living in Texas.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's to me, the family. I mean, my mom is the youngest of 12. My dad's the second youngest of 9.
Wow.
So I do not stay at, like, I mean, it's like, it gets to be a point when it's such a large family, you can't really keep in contact with folks. Like, it's really impossible. It's tough. But I started homeschooling this year, and my sons have now written letters to both of my sisters, like, hey, like, it's part of like their schoolwork and penmanship and all that. And it's awesome just to kind of see how the relationship they have with their aunts. And we live like 3 minutes from my brother-in-law, my wife's brother. So it's awesome. I live
next door to my wife's brother.
Oh, that's awesome. Like, I mean, there's a lot of people that could say, oh, well, I would never want to live that close to my in-laws. But when your in-laws are awesome, like, it doesn't matter. It's great.
We cut a 1 foot by 1 foot hole in the fence so the kids can talk to each other through the fence and do that kind of
hilarious.
Thing. Yeah.
We side has nothing to do with anything other than that. Not what you just said, but my neighbor, their dogs and my dog really like to say hello to each other. They would love to be next to each other all the time. And he was like, we should just build a doggy door into the fence so they can run back and forth, and we don't have to worry about them digging holes. Like, goodness gracious. If my brother-in-law lived next door, I'd have to build a ladder over the fence so that they could get over the this one over here would just jump over the fence all the time anyways. I wouldn't have to build a ladder, but no, I love it. Family to me is extremely important, especially after being in the military for a long time and being away from them for so long. You don't realize what you have until you're close to it again.
So digging into what you said previously, and I don't know if you struggle with this as well, but when it comes to my children, I believe I struggled, and part of my journey, my path, my adventure has led me to crave and desire success, and some of the pillars we use and the concepts we have as far as entrepreneurs and expecting failure and keep on moving forward and all that kind of stuff. Like, my kids have a pool and they have the Xboxes and they have the flat screen TVs. Like, I'm almost coming to the fact that they will never be able to understand. We want them to do better, but they're never going to have the desires that you and I might have had through joining the military or creating passive wealth, because they have pretty much everything that we can provide for them, and they don't have the passion to level up like you or I might. And I'm trying to teach these. I bring my sons into my business meetings and let them know, like, hey, I've raised $1 million for my expansion. And they're like, oh, that's cool. And then they just kind of pop a soda and keep playing games. So I would have been enamored with a father figure of any sort to tell me anything, but at least a mentor to say, hey, Mike, let me show you how to get here from here. And you can end up at the top of the mountain, whatever that means to you. And I'm trying to coach and mentor other blue collar workers, law enforcement, military guys that don't know the things that I've, learned through your podcast, other podcasts, and reading books and YouTube channels and all the stuff. Like, they just don't have that drive or desire. And I want them to be, like, follow me and I can show you some stuff and you can live a really magical, abundant life. Yeah. So I don't know is that possible?
So I'd say it's possible. However, as you are probably aware, when you have a 19 and a 17-year-old, they their testosterone is telling them the things that they want to do, as opposed to their brain telling them the things that they want to do. And so I think at this point it's more of a be a good representation of what it's supposed to be, and remind them that you are successful and wealthy. They are poor and miserable without you. And it's not to be a jerk about it. It's just, hey, what I've created is not what you have.
That's right.
It's what I've created is not yours. What's yours is what you have created. So when you go out and create something, that's when, I will help you to the end of my abilities in creating something, but you have to be able to be the one to create it. And eventually, it may be when they're, 25, and I'm saying this with a 9-year-old next to me, right? I'm not saying with a 19-year-old next to me, but through a lot of these conversations and a lot of the people I've talked to about all of this stuff, it may not be until they're 25 that they come back and say, hey, what was that you said again about, when they just moved out of their van, and they're like, son of a gun, I should have listened to dad before.
Right.
My pastor at church the other day was like, look, he's like, look, I should be the one that everybody looks to and say, hey, look at his kids doing a wonderful job in church and all the amazing things they're doing for the Lord and all of this stuff. And he's like, but no, I live in a sinful world just like everybody else. My kids are going to do what they want to do. He's like, I'm struggling with 2 of my kids to keep them in the church and to show them what they need to be doing. They're adult kids and they make the decisions they want to make. And all we could do is represent in the positive way. If we push too hard, then it ends up being a negative.
That's correct.
If we drag them along, it's a negative, and we're not doing if we give them the entire world, then that's going to be bad too, right? That goes to the shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves conversation, right? It's where 3 generations, it takes 1 generation to make the money, another generation to 1 generation to allow the money to be made, 1 generation to make it, and another generation for it to be gone again. So you could just see that process happening. But if you in Go Abundance, we talk about that a lot. What do we do to instill the drive that we got because of our past into our kids when they don't live that life? And you kind of have to fake it. You kind of have to give them the challenges that are needed to learn the things that we did. Hey, you need to get a job, or you need to do these things for the family, or you need to it is possible. I will defer to some other folks that have older kids than me and just let you know that stay strong in what you're doing, right? Be a solid role model. Give them as much of an example as you possibly can to say, hey, this is how you can be successful. You do whatever it is that you want to do to be successful. When people ask me, hey, do you want your kids to join the military? Now, Adam, plug your ears. No, I don't want my kids to join the military. If they do, that's fine. I'm not opposed to it. I just want you to know all of the options that are out there.
Sure.
I want you to know all the options that you have available to you, including working with dad. And if that's what you choose to do, then great. If not, then great. But I'm gonna be there for you no matter what.
Sure. And I've said the same
plug
thing.
Your ears, because I was saying that I didn't want you to join the military, and I didn't want you to hear that. Dang it! I just said it.
Oops.
Silly boy.
So I told my son if he wanted to go be a DJ in Vegas and live on somebody's couch, I would help facilitate that. But you have to find your own passion, and you have to fail on your own, and you can't just do what I'm doing and expect the same results, because the seeds we planted long ago are not the same, Yeah. So I'm hoping, like you said, because I didn't really hit my stride until I joined the military at 22. I was a 2.5 student. I dropped out of a couple of colleges, just not wanting to go. And then in basic training, I became honor graduate. In tech school, I was a distinguished graduate. And immediately, as an enlisted guy, I was like, you know what? I'm going to become an officer and have a bigger impact. And then my friends were all doing the drinking parties and dorm parties. And I was like, I got to write this paper. And then I get the call from the general at Lackland Air Force Base, like, hey, come visit me, bud. You're going to be one of us. And then their face changed, like, oh, man. I should have done what Mike told me to do, is go to school with him, and Nick, in the last 18 months, we could have been doing this together. And then you can see immediate regret. Like, how is this guy going to go command now because he went to school for, a few semesters? Yeah. So, but yeah, it's part of the deal.
How do you think that drive came to you, like joining the military? What was it about the military that brought that out in you?
That's a great question. And the answer is, and as much as my mom taught me about adversity and determination and moving forward, she didn't have the skill set in business, wealth, investing, or any of that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So when I got into the military, I did not have an easy basic training, even though the Air Force is the Air Force.
Yeah.
I did not have an easy path because I did whatever I wanted as a child. So when I folded my underwear in 4-inch squares and my TI dumped my clothes out on the ground and said, do it again, I was having a hard time with that lack of freedom and that kind of deal. So once I graduated, it basically taught me you have to go take whatever you want. Like you can't, nothing's going to fall into your lap. If you want to promote, you're going to have to study for the test. If you want to become an officer, you're going to have to go to officer training school and do the ASVAB and do all the FOQT and whatever you need to do, you have to get it done. And it kind of taught me a perspective of don't think about graduating from basic training or tech school. Just think about getting through the day. And then you start not looking at the forest, but you're looking at one tree you got to knock down, and then another tree, and then another tree. And then you're a mile into the forest being like, I can't believe I've accomplished all this. And I just took small bites at a time. And that was the key to my success, was somebody saying, hey, if you want to go do it, go do it. And it's that simple. It's not about, and I know I follow a bunch of these entrepreneurs and like Hormozy and some of these other guys, and it's like, no one cares about your feelings or if you're sick or whatever. If you want to go get something done, you just have to go get something done.
Did you have any mentors that were trying to push you along those routes as well?
I can't say that I have.
Okay.
And that's one of the things I'm trying to do with my charitable stuff is I have a bunch of military and law enforcement guys that are wondering, Mike, how do you write 2 books that are on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles? How do you own this real estate? How do you expand these businesses? And where the easy answer is to sit with somebody that's done it before, I've just literally my entire life has kind of failed forward and kept on taking these half steps to get where I am. And then I'm like, hey guys, if you really want to know this, because there's a lot of people that you can say, hey, sit with me, shadow me, and I'll teach you. And they're like, oh, well, I don't know. Okay. And you can't impose it upon them. But the hungry ones that come to me and say, Mike, please, I'll do whatever you tell me. I have a Navy buddy. He was, his last name is Williams. So we sat next together in the police academy. So we always made jokes about the military guys, whatever the case is. We were defensive tactics partners. So for the police academy. And then he calls me up and we're buddies, whatever, but he calls me up a few months ago and is like, Mike, I don't understand how this all works. Will you sit with me and my wife for a couple hours? Sure. Sat with him for 2 hours. And he's like, Mike, I don't care what you do. Just tell me what to do. And that's what people want to be told. And I said, put your house up for rent and go buy another house right now. Within 30 days, he had a house under contract and his house is up for rent. Nice. And he's like, a few months after that, he calls me up, Mike, I get it. I see the picture of how I can own 5 or 7 or 10 of these and in a decade, I'll be financially independent. And I said, good. And now they want to invest in my restaurant with me because they know my character. They know who I am as a person. And I believe it is my purpose to get out there and teach people what they don't know. Because the education system doesn't teach, probably while you're homeschooling, doesn't teach you to be successful. It teaches you to be a 40-hour week worker until you're 65 years old.
To follow the instructions and just move on.
That's right.
Not think outside
Shut
the
up
box.
in color.
Not doing this stuff. Yep.
Shut up in color.
One of the reasons I don't mind if they join the military, but one of the other reasons I don't want them to join the military. Great for, a start. I don't fault anybody for doing it. I've just got various reasons now at this point.
Sure.
I don't want to go down that route. But I look at, I'm pondering still your question about your kids. So do they have a mentor besides you, your sons?
They do not.
Is there anybody in your life that you could picture? So I went through, Fambundance, I absolutely love as part of GoBundance, bringing the family out and doing all sorts of stuff. Granted, my kids, 9, 5, and 1 are a little bit on the younger side. It helps out. We're starting a little earlier. There are groups inside of GoBundance for your 19 or 17-year-old to be a part of and be around other teenagers who have dads that are similar to us, right? So if you want more information on that, let me know. Or if you're not connected over there, let me know. But one of the things that I learned at a Fambundance, they were like, all right, well, you've got a coach, you've got a mentor. All of you guys do coaches and mentors. who are you deliberately putting in your kid's life to be their coach or mentor? Like deliberately putting into that, like you and I will deliberately seek out somebody who we know we need to, at an area in our life that we know we need to improve on. Why don't we do that for our kids? And I still have yet to really do it. I mean, I know that I need to deliberately put some of those people. Part of that is dagnabbit, remembering to get them into jiu-jitsu, right? Because that I know that is a good spot for them to get a good mental toughness, to be able to get good discipline, be able to learn a little bit more about resilience, and have good mentors that are there. But finding somebody that might be able to get on a call with them might be maybe it's another GoBundance guy in the area that needs somebody to labor for them, that could take somebody under their wing. But finding somebody that will and of course they've got to have the energy. They've got to your point before, like you may be talking to them, somebody may talk to them and they'd be like, yeah, sure, that sounds great. Or they may be like, nah, dude, that sounds awesome. It's completely different when it's coming from dad as it is coming from, some other guy. So
when I went to the Oconee event, that was my first in-person GoBundance event. And I came out of there with a lot of regret because I've always been the discipline guy. In the Air Force, I was a combat weapons instructor dealing with basic trainees. So you treat basic trainees a certain way. Yeah. And I put my kids through that. And I was always, this is my line. This is my boundary. Here's my hard stance. Do what I tell you to do, or else there's going to be severe consequences. Yeah. So, and in my house, it's a, yes, sir type of house. And after sitting through that event, I feel like I've had so much lost opportunity to get to know my children and what their desires and their goals were. It was more of, here are your rules, follow them or face consequences. Have a nice day. And I immediately started doing some of the things that all of my pod members are doing and everything else, is I'm setting up my kids with one-on-ones and asking them, hey, how's your girlfriend? Hey, what do you see in your next 5 years of your life? What are your goals and desires? And I did the core values test. What are your core values? Here's my core values, but a lot of this comes from the military and from business, but, like trying to get them to at least intentionally think about their future. And I sent them my vivid vision, my 5-year goal plan. And it talks about my company's going to be worth $25 to $100 million. I'm going to have real estate. I'm going to have restaurants. And then I sent it to them like, hey, here's what dad's vision is. And they're like, oh, cool. And, back to gaming. Cool. So, and again, having a BizDad podcast, like a lot of dads struggle with the balance between giving them the freedom to do what they want and dictate to them, hey, you're screwing up your life. You need to get on this path to be successful. Because, of course, even when I was a kid, every kid wants the nice cars and the nice trips and all this stuff, but they don't know what it's like to have to work for that stuff yet. It's given to them. So it's hard to get them on the path. Hey, I'm going to drag you along and force you to understand some of this business stuff, some of this financial stuff. And they pick up some tidbits. I had them do one of those mock stock accounts, and I gave them 10,000 virtual dollars and said, hey, go pick whatever you want. Cruise lines, EA Sports, gaming stuff, ESPN, whatever stocks you want. And then we tracked it over several months, and at the end it kind of fizzled out. And I was super excited about it. This is more for me. I was like, oh, look, you earned free money. You got a dividend this month, or your Apple stock went up 10%, and that's free money. And then they're like, oh, that's cool. Like, are we done here? And then I was like, you know what? Maybe I'm doing things the wrong way and trying to impose it on them, but I want them to have at least a fringe understanding that at the end of the day, you have to work for what you get.
Yeah. When you came back from Oconee, did you have conversations with your sons, especially, right, about what you learned at Oconee?
I did. Absolutely.
Yeah. How did they feel about that?
They were super excited. And of course, they were encouraging because I sent them a text that night and I said, hey, I just want to let you guys know the last 15 years I've been screwing you guys up. My bad. And now that I'm this, and I honestly believe it was an awakening for me. Like I'm a new person now. And I want to, of course, there's a time where I have to be the disciplinarian and not your friend. But as late stage teenagers, you guys are kind of already there. Like, if you want to go do something, I'm going to support you. Like, now I could be your friend and mentor, because if you do some stupid stuff, you're going to go to jail. And, like that's on you. Like, I taught you right from wrong, but now I can encourage you, mentor you, and give you guidance based on, objective guidance. Like if you say you want to go be a professional hang glider, cool, let's talk about it. Let's figure out a way we can facilitate that. But it has to be their passion and their goal, not mine.
Yeah. So what have you pulled out from them that are their passions and their goals? And it's okay to say that you haven't been able to get to that point yet. Just asking.
So I feel genetics, there's always that lifelong struggle between nature versus nurture. And I can see that my two oldest sons are from a previous marriage. And I can see definite gene structures from both of our lines. Some exude more me and some exude more her.
Yeah.
And I was a late bloomer too. I didn't hit, I was 22 before I said, you know what, I'm going to make military a career. So I'm trying to be patient because we can't expect these teenagers to say, here's what I'm going to do with my life at 16, 17, 18. I didn't become a police officer until I was 30.
Yeah.
So like, I'm trying to be patient, but I want to see some type of, here's my thing. And if you change your mind, that's cool. But right now I don't have a thing. I just wake up, go to, a part-time job and then come home and do a couple chores and then play video games and go with my friends. And then I repeat like they're on Groundhog Day. Yeah. And most kids at that age, they're like, oh, I'm going to go to 4 years of college and then 2 years of college and I'm going to go get this job. And of course, life happens and things change. But, to answer your question, I'm being patient on letting them reveal what their goals and dreams are. My 17-year-old did express a desire to grow the restaurant business with me, and he's been asking for more responsibility in that world, which I can see that. And the oldest one, he works there full time, and he has been like, he just got Employee of the Month, and he was on the verge of getting fired. Like, nice. I don't treat him as that's my boy. He can do no wrong. He was not doing a good job. And I explained to him about his attitude, his mindset, and his workmanship. And he's since then made a 180 and is doing quite well. Great rapport. He gets 5-star reviews by name because he talks to his customers. So I see growth and progress. I just don't want to say, hurry up and pick something because it's on your own accord and you have to be happy with your life the way you see it.
Yeah, I think that setting the stage for them to say, hey, this, you have to make the decisions. You have to go out and do stuff for yourself. You have to figure it out yourself. But also, because to your point, if you were a big disciplinarian, and making sure that all that structure was there, and now all of a sudden you throw nothing but freedom to them, that could be really confusing, right? So there may be some easing of, and it sounds like you're already kind of doing that. There's structure still, like you're working for me, there's still structure. Maybe now you're 19. It's time for you to pay rent too while you're living here.
He's been paying rent since graduation.
All right, good. So that's fine. Like he's learning then still the structure, still how to move forward, still what it means to have a job and how to pay bills and do all the stuff. So I think you need to give yourself a little bit of credit, right? If you're saying that just now, like Coney was in October of 23, something like that, right? That's some big changes in your thought process and mentality since then. So sit back and enjoy the fact that you've made some changes and you're doing what you can. So, give yourself a little bit more of that patience because we're recording in April, right? So it's only been like 7 months. So give it time, man. Give it time. This is going to take some work. But no, I think you're well on the right track. You're doing good stuff. So keep on doing what you're doing.
And granted, I mean, they've never been in trouble before, and they're very obedient, respectful, and I put in that groundwork over the last 2 decades. So I appreciate them in that respect, but of course, similar to you, like we're always looking for improvements and you always want to find your kids looking for improvements as well. So it just might not be their time yet.
Yeah. And that's fine, especially because I think the downfall about being that, the authoritative parents is our kids don't necessarily have time, or they don't have the freedom to be able to make those decisions that show them what mistakes are and show them how they can improve in different ways. And now you're trying to give them that freedom, correct? Which is a little bit different. So Because obviously you could be a laissez-faire parent, which I think is kind of worse because the kid just goes off and does whatever the heck they want to, and that's oh golly, that we've all seen how terrible that can go.
Sure.
So I think that. Let me pause and say, what do you think has been, because of that shift that you've had in your thought process, because of the way that you were raising your kids? How would you? And I don't want to say what would you change in the past, because I don't think that that's a viable question, honestly, in most cases. But advice for dads out there who have a 5-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 10-year-old that are those authoritarian dads right now, and making sure that there is nothing but structure. What advice would you give to them based off of what you learned in Oconee and based off of what you've done in your past?
I would say it's important to have at least a little bit of fear of your parents, knowing that they can impose some discipline. But definitely with my daughter as well, like, I've always tried to give them confidence and build them up, give them a good self-esteem. Because I think a lot of it starts, these kids in these teenage years, they get off track and confused because I don't think that they essentially received the attention or love from their parents, or their parents were distracted, or like you said, laissez-faire. Oh, I love you. Go do whatever you want, even at their own peril. So build them up, instill confidence, very similar to what the military does. Like when you go into basic training, they break you down and then they build you up as a team. So I would say keep your standards and let them know that there are boundaries, but build them up, instill confidence, say kind things, let them know if they're dressed nice and when they do a good job, and let them believe that there's rewards for positive interactions and there's consequences for negative. And then don't be so hardline, and explain why you're doing things. So when I put my 3-year-old daughter in the corner because she hit somebody in the face, I explained to her, hey, every time you hit somebody in the face, you're going to get punished this way. And after a while, even though I was putting her in the corner and she's crying 6 times a night for 15 minutes, at some point she decides she doesn't want to be in the corner anymore. So I'm not going to hit people in the face, and the problem solved. And I've never had that problem again. But we have to put in the hard work up front and let them know that there's boundaries that everyone's got to fall into in any line of work. Entrepreneurs, there's always bosses, investors, somebody you have to answer to. So work within the boundaries, and you should be good if you with your confidence level and that kind of thing. Is kind of my advice.
Yeah, working within the boundaries of I think that's one benefit about being an entrepreneur is we have different kinds of boundaries, right? Especially if you're the business owner, the boundaries are wherever you place them as far as, being like where the business is. But there are still boundaries. You can't just let things run amok. We may have to write the new boundaries. Like this is how this restaurant is going to operate. This is how my employees are going to do things. Those are still boundaries.
Sure.
And trying to teach our kids those skills at a young age, while still allowing the freedom to be able to go and make mistakes and do things. Like we've done a terrible job of following up on it. But one thing I used to love asking my kids, because I am a big fan of failing often, but fail forward.
Right.
I want you to fail as many times as you possibly can. Like if you do something wrong, and like if you're not doing good at something, but you're trying hard things, I get thrilled about that. And let's learn from it. What do we fail at? And how do we prevent ourselves from failing that way again? How do we get 1% better every day so that failure isn't consistent? Because if you're learning from it, then guess what? No longer a failure. You learn from it. Like you grew. That to me is extremely important of having the boundaries. Like, I don't mind if you go climb that tree and act like a crazy maniac and fly all over the place. So when I say it's time to come in, it's time to come in. When you're doing things, it's time to do it. Anyways, I want to jump into the business a little bit, right? You said that your oldest is already in the business. So Ethan, right, is working in the business full time. Noah wants full time, or
no? He's still in high school, but he comes on the weekends and days off.
Awesome. So with both of them being in the business, how did you bring them into it, and how do you foresee them continuing on in the business? So
I kind of brought them in as, hey, this half white, half Puerto Rican guy just bought a Thai restaurant. You guys need a job. Now you're employed. And I kind of told them like, hey, you're employed now.
Yeah.
And here's what your responsibilities are. Because I asked my son, because Ethan has free 4 years of college if he wants it through the military.
Yeah.
Or trade school or anything. And I said, hey, dude, like you're an adult now. What do you want to do? He goes, oh, I want to work the restaurant. Okay, cool. You understand you're not going to be working 10 hours a week and lounging at the house. You're going to be a full-time employee and you're going to be given extra responsibilities and you're there as an employee to support the business. And if you do not, just because you're the owner's son doesn't mean you get special privileges. If you don't do your job, that's what's going to happen. You're going to go away and you go work at Sonic again, if that's what you want to do. And then I believe I've cultivated an environment that is fun and energetic. Like the restaurant business is the restaurant business. Like it's stressful and it's multitasking and you're always going to mess up. And I'll share this story. I've shared it with other people, but when my son first became a server, like when he was 18, he started serving tables. So he started off like just packing to-goes. And then I was a server for a long time at Chili's, bartender, manager at Chili's. So I have a little bit of restaurant management experience and I know how the systems there work. Yeah. So I said, hey, I want to make him a server, knowing that he doesn't have any experience. When someone asked for a lime for their margarita, he brought out a whole lime and just handed it to them with his hand. And I said, of course, I started cracking up. And if he's embarrassed, I say, hey, dude, like, you don't know what you don't know. And unless you're an experienced server, that's not how you do it. You know, like cut the lime, put a little slit in there, put it on a plate and hand it. You don't want to see your hands on their food. You know, like, okay, cool. Now, next time he knows. And like you said, putting yourself in uncomfortable situations where you don't know, now you're thrown into a whole new game where you're going to mess up. You're going to give bad service. You're going to forget to ring up orders. You're going to forget drinks. And then the more you fail, the more experience you get. Now you're employee of the month because you're giving great service. Yeah. So I try to bring them in that way and let them know it's okay to not know everything, but you have to not do the same thing every day and keep on trying to acquire more knowledge, because as you acquire more experience and knowledge, you become more valuable to the company. As you become more valuable to the company, then you get a better income or equity or ownership. Because I told them, I was like, if you guys want to be a corporate training team or run a whole restaurant by yourself, you can do that. But you have to put in the work. Yeah.
Yeah. Jordan Peterson, I love listening to him a lot. And one of the things he talks about is asking stupid questions, right? Is an imperative. Like we all need to ask stupid questions, because the beautiful thing about asking a stupid question is you only have to ask it once. Because once you ask the stupid question and you get the answer, you're no longer stupid in that scenario anymore. That's right. You now know. You have gained knowledge, and you no longer now it's not a stupid question. It will be if you have to ask it again, right? Because you're going through it, but you gained that knowledge. So somebody asks for a lime, and you bring them a whole lime. You only have to do that once to learn from it. And go, okay, got it. Now, if we repeat that same mistake over and over and over again, now we're having a problem, right? If I keep bringing out a whole lime and I'm not learning, different story. But when you learn from it, you don't have, like he talked about his daughter a lot in that. Where when they were first starting all of this, the YouTube and all that type of stuff, like when he got kind of thrust into that world, they had no idea what they were doing, and he was like, so my daughter would come to all these meetings and ask a bunch of stupid questions, and it was great because by the end of it, we had so much more knowledge because she was willing to ask all of these questions because we needed to gain the knowledge, we needed to know where it's at. Right. I just spent right before this call like 45 minutes with our EOS implementer. Asking stupid questions because I was like, dude, I need to know that I'm doing the right things in this, and I need to know that I don't know what I don't know, so ask the questions and figure it out. And I think that we live in a world where people make fun of you so much for one thing or another, and for me, it's like, okay, well, I'd rather be made fun of for trying to learn than made fun of for sitting back doing nothing. So you might as well get made fun of for trying to learn and grow. So
and that's what the military kind of taught us. You would get in trouble. Your commander or your first sergeant would say, show up at this building tomorrow at 06. You don't walk around and be like, hey, how do I get there? You just go to the base map and figure it out. Yeah. And that's kind of one of the things is like they do a good job of throwing you into the fire and making you learn it on your own because there's consequences for that. So it's not always a question thing. It's like, hey, just show up here. I'm not going to waste my time telling you what to do. You'll figure it out. And as a military person, that's what makes most of us like alphas. We would have no problem walking to a room and asking a million questions because we have the confidence to already go in there and be the dumb E1 or E2 that doesn't know anything. And of course, then now you're a sergeant training other people to do the thing that you didn't know how to do a few years ago. So like you said, you just throw people into it, let them spread their wings, and they'll get knowledge from it, and they'll be a better, more resilient human being.
Yeah, and that was one of those things I always appreciated the folks who are at least trying to put the effort in to show it. And I think that everybody's in the same boat. I just want to know that you're putting in the effort and you're trying to succeed. You're trying to do better. You know, if you're asking me, you know, a bajillion questions, and it happened all the time in the military, they ask 1,000 questions and it's like, dude, you know exactly where to find this. You know how to do these things. Go do it. Go figure it out. You know?
Right.
And that's to me is different than asking a stupid question that, you know, hey, you have no idea how to figure this out, and I do, so let's talk about it. So with your kids, how do you encourage them to ask you questions, to be, and how do you allow yourself to be open enough to allow them to ask the questions without getting upset, without, you know, having any of those issues? How do you encourage them to do those things that we're talking about right now?
Well, that was one of my shortfalls, as treating them as basic trainees for a long time. Actually, just a sidebar, I had a period where they were both acting out of line, and I created a basic training at the house. I woke them up at 6 a.m. I gave them unseasoned chicken and rice 3 meals a day, and then they had chores and book reports throughout the entire day. So this happened on a Friday and a Saturday and a Sunday, and it's because they were talking back, not following simple instructions like, hey, I've asked you probably 100 times not to leave your shoes out here, and they do it anyway. Okay, well, you're not learning, so let me go ahead and help you. And then by the end of that Sunday, they were crying, saying, we get it, Dad. We don't want to go through this again. So that alluded to your question, where now I've created this authoritative, cemented spot in their head, so I have a hard time with them opening up. And a perfect example is my son's 17. He doesn't have his driver's license yet. He hasn't really asked for it, but I know that he wants it. But he doesn't want to impose anything on me because he knows I'm constantly in meetings. I'm at the restaurant. He doesn't want to say, hey, Dad, let's drive around for a couple hours, because he's afraid that I'm going to snap at him, or not even snap at him, but say, I'm sorry, I'm too busy. And even though I let him know, like, hey, man, like, I don't know what is happening in your brain. Please let me know, communicate to me, and I can try to facilitate help in any way. But over the last 10 years, I'm afraid of Dad. I don't want to talk to him because he might yell at me, to try to say, hey, my bad, I've changed. You know, I'm a new person. Come talk to me anytime. It takes time for them to actually believe that I'm not going to snap at them again the way I used to. So I encourage them by trying to keep reminding them, hey, remember, like, GoBundance has kind of made me a new perspective on the way I'm parenting. And I really care about what you want, what you think. And don't forget that I'm here if you need anything. So I kind of remind them on a regular basis, but it's hard to undo 10 years of trauma and damage in a few months.
Yeah, I can understand that for sure. Like, I mean, I want to encourage my kids to ask as many questions as possible, and come to me with anything. I want to be an open book for them at any point. And you know, I know that can go too far one way or another all the time, you know, so it's finding that balance to make sure that we're in the right spot. But I you know, again, I want to applaud you for stepping up and kind of keeping that open to them and saying, hey, this is where I want to be. This is the relationship I want us to continue to build. You know, like my dad worked multiple jobs all the time. Like he was in the military for about 15 years and he broke his back. And then got medically discharged, but not medically retired. So got a sum of money, and that was it. Off he went, and then working odd jobs here and there, and some jobs paid more than others. So some parts of my upbringing we had different food on our table than we had other parts of my upbringing. And then all of a sudden he became a correction officer up in New York. But he was constantly working. So, I mean, I was with my mom a lot. And I felt like, I forgot where I was going with the story. There was a purpose behind it. But I got a lot closer to my dad much later. It took me a while to kind of let go of some of what, I felt he should have done, And I'm saying this was the point of this. I'm saying this to encourage you as well, is it's not going to be immediate. It took me a while to really kind of understand who my dad actually was and why he treated me the way he did. So I'm going to actually ask a question before I continue this. How much of your past do your sons know about you? Your upbringing, your real dad, all of that.
Yeah, pretty good amount. So I when I gave my retirement speech for the Air Force, it was a well thought out document over months, praising my mom for everything, praising my kids, and trying to show them like, hey, here's what your dad did on the weekends. I deployed, because they were still young. They were 4 and 6 when I was out and about, and on the weekends when I wasn't there for things, I had to be at drill or whatever the case is. So,
how much heart have you given behind those conversations so that they can really understand, like, this is the pain that dad has had over these years and why I've done some of the things I've done?
So one of my major character flaws is I'm an over talker and a mansplainer. So I'll have these conversations about life, success, work hard, play hard, whatever the topic is. And I seem to repeat myself from 3 different paths, and it ends up becoming white noise to them, I think. So I think they pick up on some tidbits, and I feel like I'm very objective with them. So when they do a bad job, I let them know. When they do a good job, I let them know. And I try to be as unbiased as possible, which might be a detriment in itself. I just want them to understand that their path is not going to be my path. And I've said that. Like, I would consider myself an overachiever at this point. Like, I was nominated for Officer of the Year 7 years in a row at the police department. It's because I made a choice to be the best and the subject matter expert. I was nominated for Company Grade Officer of the Year. Like, these things don't happen by accident. And that's one of these quotes that go, but success doesn't happen by accident. So I try to teach them that. And I don't want them to be like me. I don't want them to, you don't have to be a valedictorian. You don't have to be a military guy. You don't have to be a business owner. I want you to be a good human, collective citizen, kind, charitable, take care of other people, be respectful to other people, and live a happy life. So whatever that means to them, that's what I encourage. So again, because of my 10 years of this is how it's going to be, do it this way, it's hard for them to probably believe and trust that I genuinely want that for them.
Well, that's why I'm asking, and I'm trying to dig in a little bit as far as, like, how vulnerable have you gotten with your kids to let them know why you've done some of the things you've done? Because it wasn't until I really learned some stories about my dad and talked to him on a much deeper level that I realized why he fathered me the way he did. Like, and granted, for me, I didn't have that conversation until, or start to learn more about that until I was in my late 20s, early 30s, before I really started to understand. And I'm trying to throw over to you, make sure it's not until, like, that they're not in their early 30s before they have the conversation with you, so that they can be a little closer to going, holy crap, I understand. Like, I got to a much deeper level with who my dad was and the experiences he had that, led me to kind of understand, wow, he wasn't able to give me the love that I wanted because he had never received any of that. Like, it just was something he was missing. And I'm not saying that's the case with you. I'm just saying that if you get more vulnerable, and let them know, hey, like, I think it will break down some of those walls that you feel like are still there.
That's fair.
Because you're saying I want them to know it now, and I don't know if they're going to be able to see it. Well, they might not, because you still have your own walls up, where you're still protecting your own self from what was going on, so that you could stay driving forward. And letting those walls down is not going to stop you from driving forward. If anything, it's going to help you drive more, because now you can be a little bit more free.
Yeah.
But sitting down and having a true conversation of, hey, here's all of the heartbreak your dad has gone through. here's where I know that I failed you, and here's where I know that I've done well. I want you guys to know that and be, intimately involved in this conversation so that you guys can be on a different level.
I would say that's a fair point. I do still keep some walls up.
Yeah.
Just out of self-preservation back, through my upbringing. But it's funny because my wife is not that way. She's very open. And then she has conversations with my mom and says, why is Mike this way? And she goes, well, I trained him to be that way. I told him at 18, he's getting out.
Yeah.
And even though I love him more than anything, I knew that success wasn't going to be hanging out in the hometown with your, gangster buddies playing basketball all the time. Like, that's not what success is. So I told him, you're going to go to college. You're going to go figure it out. No one else in the family has ever graduated college. So she's like, you're getting out. You're going to go figure it out. Yeah. And my wife was like, oh, that explains so much because that's how I treat my kids. I said, and my mom has told me the same quote over and over again. I'm not here to be your friend. I'm here to raise you to be a good human being, a good adult. Yeah. And later on, we can be cool. And we'll have drinks around the table when we visit. We'll go on trips, and we have a great relationship. But she was no love lost. Like, hey, go figure out your life. You're not going to hang out here and be a loser. Okay, cool. So that's part of the way that I'm raising my children. Even though my 19-year-old lives on a very modest rent in a beautiful house with all the bells and whistles, doesn't pay groceries, doesn't pay utilities, but I let him know, like, hey, this isn't going to be a free ride forever. So I'm going to keep on raising your rent until it becomes uncomfortable for you to stay here, and then you're going to have to go figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. But I do want to encourage you. Have the vulnerable conversations. Even if you just have it with your wife first and say, hey, you've talked to my mom about this thing. I know, because that helped me so much understand who my dad was at a completely different level.
Sure.
I have the blessing of having had that conversation with my dad early enough that I can now be a little bit more vulnerable with my kids, to let them know what's going on. And I thank God every day that I was able to have some of that before my kids got, older. So now I get to do these things like, homeschool.
Sure.
Hang out with get his headphones on doing math, but to sit here and do homeschool, and take them on vacations with me and be able to tell them, hey, daddy failed miserably at this today, and it's
and it probably wasn't until Oconee until I did that.
Yeah.
I've always been the commander, like, hey, I do things prestigious and right every time.
Yeah.
No flaws, no dents in my armor. And then when I sat at the table with these 8 other guys and I was like, man, I'm messing up. I need to fix this retroactively as fast as I can.
Yeah.
And again, it's baby steps, but I'm trying.
That's one thing. Military and law enforcement, we have a tendency, our vision of success in military and law enforcement is typically that type of thing. Is like,
sure.
I was just again on that EOS call with my integrator, or implementer. Sorry, and I was told him. I said, look, I thrive in stressful situations where decisions need to be made immediately, where things are like everything's going crazy.
Yes.
Like I can get on scene at whatever, whether it was in Afghanistan, whether it's at a crime scene, whether it's wherever, I can get on the scene and know exactly who to plug where, exactly what to do next, make the decision and move on, which is great in those scenarios. But that level of leadership, that style of leadership is not so great in your normal everyday things are smooth and running along. And if that's the only skill I have, and that's what I revert to, boy, that leads to a miserable household. Like, if all I do is, hey, you're doing this, moving on. And okay, well, Dad, can I talk to you about this feeling I had? No time for feelings, buddy. We're doing this,
Exactly.
Like, golly, that's just so
I'm the same way.
So rough, and I'm catching myself trying not to do that in for me, like on the business side. And I'd love to hear any thoughts you have on this, especially with your new view on things. Is like, I want to balance between, because I don't want to be so hands off that it's laissez-faire either, where I'm just kind of like, dude, whatever happens, as far as business goes.
Sure.
But also don't want to be the guy that just comes in and says this, moving on.
Sure.
Like, let's hear your marching orders, move on. So I'm still struggling with a little bit of that balance to make sure that I'm letting people do what they need to do in their positions, but at the same point, not hovering over people. And say, hey, what are you doing?
Sure. So as a prior commander, I use a lot of my business skills from what I gained from the military.
Yep.
And being an enlisted guy who has scrubbed urinals for lieutenants coming in to becoming the commander that everyone stands up when you walk in the room, I've always tried to be that servant leader, the boss, because there's commanders that are, you only see them once for commander's call every month, and that's it. And I was not that guy. Like, I would be around the fire pit with my guys and smoking pit and all that kind of stuff, just talking to them and let them know, like, I'm here to serve you. What do you need? So even in the restaurant business, I try to explain to them, and I give them little words of encouragement before Friday night. Guys, it's Friday night in downtown DFW area. People are going to be out. It's going to be busy. We're going to mess up, and we're going to be stressed out. And I try to use that mindset. It's just noodles. Like, I've literally tried to kill somebody with my bare hands. This is just noodles. It's okay if it takes 5 extra minutes. Everything's going to be just fine. And then they're like, I never thought about it that way. Yeah, because like they're so caught up in the moment. Oh, I forgot this. My table's mad at me. I was like, guys, this is not life or death. Like, I've been in life or death situations. I've had people around me murdered. Like, that's the apex of what you and I have trained to do. This is just noodles. So let's keep our composure. Let's do the best we can with what we got. And then at the end of the day, we'll all high five because we went through it together. So I try to encourage them and do that same thing with, even in the military as a commander, like, guys, y'all know me. I'm not the same guy that was here before. So what do you need from me? How can I help you? How can I make your job better? What can I go argue for funding for? That kind of thing. Cause they're the whole reason the mission works. I'm just a guy that goes to the meetings. So I tried to make that clear to them that I was there for them.
Yeah. I think that the servant leader thing is an absolute requirement, and I think that blends over just this similarly as a parent. But it's hard for us to think about it that way as a parent, right? How can we serve our kids? How can we raise them, to ask for help and be comfortable with that, and teach them where we need to be and all the stuff. It's funny. One of the guys that I worked with, he was a 160th SOAR guy, and I've told the story before on the podcast, but. So he's a special operations helicopter pilot, and he and I would be on meetings before, and we're like, dude, ain't nobody getting shot at today. I'm like, it's okay, like, it's no big deal. I was after Iraq, Afghanistan, bouncing around all over the world, doing all sorts of crazy stuff that I've done. It's like it's okay, this is no big deal. I can this is manageable.
Yes.
And I try to have that same concept with my kids. It's not exactly, I mean, I'm obviously not telling them, hey, you're not getting shot at today, buddy, right? I mean, he's 9. So, but at the same point, it's like, dude, we're just here having fun. Like, it really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. Like with golf, right? My oldest loves golf, and I love being his caddy. I love being out there watching him golf. That's awesome. A good time. It's so much fun to just be out there and seeing him with the other kids and playing. And I would love to just watch him just having a great time all the time, every time he's out there. But sadly, he's like his dad, where he wants to win, and it's and he wants to drive towards that success. So if it's not going, it's a conversation where we have to go, hey, dude, a bogey does not end our day. A double bogey does not end our day. That's okay. One round or one hole does not ruin a round. Let's make it happen. One penalty shot does not ruin a round. Let's make it happen. And trying to get that context. So not always easy. Not always easy, and it's not easy as an adult, let alone as a 9-year-old. So
I have a short success story I can share with you real quick.
Yeah.
So a girl from my unit, before I retired, came into the restaurant. She works for a big company that's right near the restaurant. She comes in at least once a week, maybe twice a week. Very regular customer, brings all of her coworkers. So when my son first became a server, he was really busy. We were a full house, and he ignored her table. So basically took the order, never brought out drinks, never brought out silverware. And then he was ashamed because he knew he was doing a bad job. So he didn't want to man up and basically say, hey, my fault. I'm too busy. I neglected you. He just ignored her. So I found out I wasn't there at the time, but my manager called me and said, hey, we have a big complaint. She's from this company and she's here all the time. She's a regular. And she said that she's never coming back and all this other kind of stuff. So I call her up, not knowing who she is. And I said, listen, extreme ownership, the Jocko stuff. I was like, listen, everything under my restaurant and in my life is my fault. I totally apologize. I'm going to coach him. I'm going to suspend him as a server until he's spun up and make sure that he's squared away, whatever the case is. She goes, Mike, it's me. I'm from you. Remember me from your unit. And I was like, what? And she goes, I had a conversation with her yesterday. She came in. She goes, once you called me and you blamed everything on yourself, she goes, my level of respect totally changed for you.
Yeah.
So my son saw her yesterday and walks up and said, you remember how I gave you that really bad service at one time and you complained and I got in trouble and everything else? She goes, yes. He goes, I want to thank you for identifying these flaws, and I'm much better now than I was before, and I won Employee of the Month. And she's awesome. She's an NCO, and she's like, I'm so proud of you. And to show that you have these deficiencies, you work through them, and now you're better, and you accept the fact that happened. And I shook his hand too, and I said, son, that's the right way to do business. Because I didn't ask him to go up to her and say anything, but that makes me feel warm in my heart that he's grasping some of these things, because I just want him to be better. I don't want him to stay in the same stagnant spot. And as you know, everyone in our circles, all these entrepreneurs, you're either getting better or getting worse. And you have to put yourself outside of your comfort zone. You're not going to learn anything watching Netflix. Like, I don't know everything about opening up 51 restaurants, but guess what? I'm figuring it out. I'm reading FDDs, business plans. And I just know there's, just like the analogy before, there's one obstacle in front of me. There's one rock in my way. Let me hammer that out, and then there'll be another one. And 5 years is the goal. 10 years is the goal. All these little rocks are supposed to follow my path.
Yep. The obstacle is the way, I believe.
That's right. I just finished that book. And I'm reading Discipline is Destiny now.
Oh, who wrote that? I don't know that
Same one, Ryan Holiday.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Discipline is Destiny. I'll have to write that one down.
And The Alchemist, if you haven't read that one's a gem.
Yeah, that one I have read. And I just started, my son has been crushing through them, but I bought him the kids' Jocko Willink books, which have been awesome for him to read. The Warrior, Way of the Warrior Kid. Is that what it is? Way of the Warrior Kid? Yeah. So he's on the 4th book now, the 5th book in the waiting. He's got the posters up in the room now.
That's great.
Encouraging him to do more of that.
Training these franchisees on my core values and my vision, I'm going to be handing out extreme ownership. That's one of my core values. And The Alchemist, because they have to understand that bad things don't happen. They're supposed to happen, and you're supposed to overcome them. You can't just fall in the fetal position.
Yep. Yeah. And you're not going to get better with no bad things happening to you.
That's correct.
The only way to, sharpening a sword, what it takes to sharpen a sword is to remove some of the metal. That's the only way you can sharpen a sword.
That's right.
So it takes work. It takes effort. You got to remove that metal to make the sword sharp. But yeah, I know that you are on a time crunch, so I got to harass you a tiny bit while we're recording because I wanted to be in there to say, hey, I've got to make a short podcast because Mike's got to get on another call. Give him a hard time. But no, Mike, I greatly appreciated having you on. It was awesome. I love the work you're doing in yourself. I love the work you're doing with your kids. And I appreciate you throwing that out there for those who are maybe struggling with some of the things you struggled with before, so that they can hopefully have an early start on it than you did. And really get pushing on it. But again, it doesn't matter when you start; it matters that you do. The only better time to start was yesterday, so you might as well start changing yourself now and getting stronger and getting better. So thank you for being vulnerable on here and chatting about that and pushing your family and your kids in the right direction. So, is there anything that you wanted to hit that we have not covered yet?
So just a couple of things. My restaurant is Blue Mint Thai and Asian Cuisine. We're going to be doing national franchises here by the end of the year. And part of my passion and my vision is to give back to local communities. So every location is required per our operating agreement that you're going to have a nonprofit organization attached to it, which must donate only to the local community. So whether it's your faith, animals, veterans, school lunches, it doesn't matter, but I want you to be cemented into the local community. And my goal with Traction and EOS and everything else is to remove myself in the next few years so I can run the charitable foundation only and focus on giving back to other people. Because I bought my mom a new car last year, and it was the best feeling that she was in tears. She had a 20-year-old RAV4 and just a drop up for her birthday and put a big bow on it. And she had no clue. Like, being able to give back to people is the best and biggest thing and reward you can have. So if I can replace myself doing the money and the business stuff and just coach, mentor, motivationally speak to other people for no charge, just to get the word out to you can be bigger and better than what you think you can, then that's my goal. I do have a couple of books on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. One, I'll actually go right here. One is Blue Collar Wealth, Basics of Investing. The other one is The Blue Collar Manual to Doing Epic Shit. It's a mindset book, talking, and it has interviews with an Army Ranger that got blown up in Afghanistan, one of the first African-American Apache helicopter pilots to fly combat missions, one of my friends who's one of the head of human trafficking in the country.
Nice.
And he works in my police department, and he was a Bosnian war refugee, talking about his story of having no electricity and water for 2 years and having to smuggle out his whole family in in giant suitcases through borders and stuff. And he's a no excuse guy. So he's like, listen, everyone's got problems. Everyone's got skeletons. Yeah. Are we going to blame our entire miserable life because of one thing that happened to me when I was younger? Or am I going to go kick ass the way I need to and make life the way I want it? So I try to surround myself with people like yourself, the abundance guys, and then, people that I featured in the book saying, you can go be as big and as awesome as you want to be. You just have to be willing to do the work. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. That's awesome. Yeah. I was going to ask where people could reach out to you and what you wanted to push out. I love the books. So please, everybody. Where can people reach out to you if they do want to get a hold of you? Maybe they want to open up a franchise because you sound like an awesome person to work with.
So I am an awesome person to work with, truly. But the best way is probably I do an Instagram that follows a lot of these things we talk about. It's velocity.investing, and it's just motivational quotes and updates with my stuff. You can reach out to me, DM me through there, or Mike@velocityinvestinggroup.com. Always looking for like-minded partners, entrepreneurs, military guys, law enforcement. All my books are 99 cents. Everything goes to my military unit. They're charitable books. So I try to get them as cheap as possible. I think they're like $5 for print because Amazon charges for paper and ink. But 99 cents. I send it to my military unit every few months for morale, welfare, beer fund. And so just reach out to me. Happy to help out if I can. And you can probably find me in articles about white guy taking over Thai restaurant in South Texas, that kind of thing.
Love it. All right. Well, please reach out to Mike. I'll have all that in the show notes, links to all the stuff in the show notes. But Mike, again, thank you so very much for jumping on. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Greatly appreciate you guys staying on. Please like, subscribe, do all those things you're supposed to do. And again, reach out to Mike if he sounds like the kind of guy you want to connect with for real estate or opening up a franchise. I'd love to hear about the success in the future. Have you on again to hear how the franchises are going. But thank you all very much. Adam saying thank you and bye to everybody as well in the background. And we will see everybody on the next show.
Adam, thank you for what you do as well.
No, I appreciate it.
It means a lot to us military guys and entrepreneurs for you to get the word out there and be the good human being you are.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Mike.
Thank you. Take care.